Happy Monday and welcome to this really special edition of HairUWear Cares. I'm so excited because it's girl power. We have all ladies in the house today. I'm so excited about our guest, Brandy. And then we have Gina here with us today too, and she's going to talk a little bit about the giveaway. So to get started, I'm going to introduce you guys to Brandy. I'm so excited. I've seen Brandy work with American Hairlines pieces for a while now, and I'm so excited that she's joining us. And we're going to be able to see one of the newest styles for women by American Hairlines. I think we see a lot of men's applications, so I'm so excited to see this woman's application. Plus, we're going to be seeing the complete application from start to finish, which is so exciting. So stay tuned. Be sure to ask all the questions you have if you're a current account, or if you're a stylist and you're thinking about adding non-surgical hair replacement to your menu of services, now is the time to ask one of the best, Brandy. So Brandy's been doing this for almost 25 years. I'm guessing she started when she was like 5 years old, right?
Yeah, that's
But Brandy is a hair replacement specialist and her salon is Elements of Hair in Arizona. So thank you for joining us, Brandy.
Thanks for having me. I've been looking forward to this.
Yes, we're so excited. So we're going to get right back to Brandy in just a second. But Gina, while you're with us, can you talk a little bit about our super special giveaway?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super excited about this prize because it's an opportunity for the winner to win an intimate one-on-one unplugged American Hairlines experience with myself and a product specialist. Plus, after this experience, they're going to get a 10% discount off their initial order. So we're really excited to do this, and we're really excited to meet that winner.
That's so awesome. And in case I didn't mention it, Gina is Director of Sales and Business Development at American Hairlines. Thank you so much for joining us and explaining the giveaway. And then if you want to be entered, be sure to ask Brandy a question. So enter it in the comments, ask away, pick her brain. She is here to answer all your questions. So take advantage of it. Plus, your questions will enter you in that amazing giveaway. So thank you, Gina, for joining us and explaining that. And then just before we get to Brandy's amazing application, I just wanted to mention that obviously Frank is not with us today, so he sent in the second best replacement, which is me. But Frank does send his love and his hellos to everyone. So, okay, Brandy, are you ready? Let us know if you need a little bit of time to prep, but I think we're going to get right to it, right? Are you going to show us? I know we're showing the Reese. So Reese is actually one of the newest styles. So tell us a little bit about this system and what makes it different.
Okay, so Reese is a 3/4 cap women's system. We've always had with the longer hair, so this has a little bit of a shorter length to it. 3/4 cap, meaning it's 9 3/8 of an inch by 11 inches. So it's a little bit bigger. It comes down just a little further. It's going to give us a little bit more of a full coverage, still having that really nice thin base to it, so it's very comfortable to wear. We're going to do a start to finish application of full head bond with the Reese today. We can kind of take a look here. Let me pull this out for you so we can kind of take a look. We have the 1/2 inch lace in the front. We have mesh inserts in the top that allows for breathability. But then we also have the nice thin polyurethane around the middle and the edges for the comfort of it. So this is what we're going to be applying to Marie today. Now she normally wears a custom system that's a little bit thicker than this. So we'll be putting something on her that's a little thinner, a little bit more comfortable to wear. And she'll be bonding it today for the first time she'll be doing a full head bond.
That's awesome. I can't wait to meet Marie. And I know you talked a little bit before we went live how you, you prepared your system. And I've seen that for the most part, you always either, bleach the knots or prepare a system in some type of way. And that I think is what makes your services so special and what somebody else could do to add that extra touch of, customization and making it perfect for that person. So tell us a little bit about some of the things you did with the system before, like out of the box to where it is now.
So this one here would be just out of the box. Of course, I combed it through a little bit, but this is just out of the box. Now, I like to do a lot of custom coloring because I kind of feel like anything too solid to me obviously just doesn't look as natural.
Mm-hmm.
So what we've done here is I gave it a nice shadow root at the top. I gave her a nice baby light here in the front of the hair, just to add a little bit of lightness around her face, just to give it a little bit more depth and dimension to the hair so that it's got more movement to it.
That's great. So I can't wait to see it a little bit more once you get your application going. But we have Jackie, I guess she's in Ireland maybe, or is that your last name? I don't know. But she's asking if we teach this kind of class that works for men as well, and that she has a client that her husband has alopecia and he's interested in something. So that's a great question. And I know Brandy, you can probably add to that, but I know Brandy, you do. What is the percentage of your clients, women versus men?
So my personal percentage here in the salon is I'm probably 70% men, 30% women. We do have a couple of the other stylists that do probably 70% women, 30% men. So it just kind of varies back and forth. We actually are doing Facebook Live for our new system, William, which is a more of a full coverage next month, which would probably be a really great one for her to watch because that's going to be more focused for the men's side. But we do a lot of this for men as well.
That's awesome. Yeah. And at the end of our live, we're going to add more contact information if you're interested in more education with American Hairlines. Let me see. Yeah, somebody asked about classes. Okay, so we have another question. Did you highlight this with a bleach lightener?
I did. I used a 20 volume with the bleach. I used Pravana, and I just did it in the front. When I'm highlighting, I don't do anything over a 20 volume. You can usually get away with a 10 or a 20. Anything over a 20 volume, you're going to end up pulling up some sort of strange colors normally. So if you need something lighter than a 20 volume, it's going to give you, probably order your system a little bit lighter and add the darker back to it.
Okay, we have another great question. So Donald Miller is asking, is there a way to add tape pads to that system?
So we wouldn't need to add tape pads to it. This particular system can be, you could sew clips into it. You can use tape to bond it on with. You could just use tape and take it on and off daily if you'd like to. It's a very versatile system.
Okay, and then let's just answer one more question and then we'll let you get started because I know you have the full application, so we don't want to lose any time. But somebody's asking, how would you color this? Will the color stain the cap? And I've gotten that question a lot, so I'd love your answer to that.
So when I color it, I'm very careful to use a thicker color. I always wash the system first. I put my color on the system with the hair wet still.
Okay.
And using that thicker color, you have more control over it and you just stay away from the base with the actual color. We actually do, when we do our classes, we actually teach you how to do that.
That's amazing. Okay, so yeah, I'm sure more questions will come in. So thank you guys for asking and keep asking your questions, entering them in the chat box, in the comment section, because that is going to enter you into our giveaway, which is super special. It's a consultation and a discount. We'll talk a little bit more about it again at the end, but be sure to keep asking your questions. So Brandy, do you want to go ahead and get started?
Yeah, let me get my mask on and I will bring Marie in and we'll get started.
Awesome. So you guys keep commenting if you have any questions. We're actually, I was going to say, I got this little pop-up that made my heart stop. It said my internet is unstable. We're having a little bit of a rainstorm here. So just in case I drop off for any reason, let's hope not. Brandy, you just keep doing what you do and I'll jump back in.
This is our beautiful Marie.
Hi,
Hello.
Marie. So nice to meet you. I'm Christina.
Hi, Christina.
And then Facebook is going to be looking at your beautiful face and hair for the next hour or so. So thank you so much for being willing to be Brandy's model. This is amazing to be able to actually obviously see it, you know, from start to finish. So we're so excited and so happy you're joining us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It'll be fun.
Yes. I can't wait to see the transformation.
We're going to change her style up just a little bit today. We're going to go a little longer than what she currently has.
Okay.
So we're going to give her a little bit of a bob. And she's currently wearing a custom system, which is a little bit heavier. So we're going to take this off. Are you ready, Marie?
I'm ready.
Okay, here we go. Yay. And here she is. So I have pre-marked her prior to the Facebook Live starting, which I will go through and mark her again and kind of give you guys an idea of how we do that. But since we're going to do a full head bond on her today, what we're going to do is we get her marked, and then we're going to cut all of that hair down around the sides and edges here so that we do the full head bond on her. And you can kind of see I do have some of my marks in there. We want to give her as much coverage as possible because her hair loss, she's fairly diffused all the way through the top of her head.
Okay, perfect. We had Stephen ask if when you're processing the color on wet hair, does it dilute the color that you're applying?
So when you are working on this type of hair, it does dilute it, but you want that to happen because if you put a color number 5 on a system that's a color number 5, it will just keep depositing because the hair obviously has been bleached up. It's had textile dye boiled back down into it. So you want to keep an eye on it. You want to dilute your color. You almost want to go a shade lighter than what you want your outcome. And you always want to keep an eye on that color. Don't just walk away and leave it.
That's a really good point. Okay, so this is the Reese. And I'm looking at my specs here, so I'll talk a little bit about the length. So the base was 9 7/8 by 10. The hair length is 10 inches. It says the density is medium. The construction is 100% handcrafted. The venting method is knotted throughout. And the suggested systems annually is 4. I know that varies by client. Brandy, do you want to talk a little bit about that point of how many systems maybe somebody that purchases this style might go through and all of that?
So a lot of that is going to come down to how they take care of their hair at home. How are they attached? Is this somebody who's going to take their hair off every night before they go to bed? Or is this somebody that's going to sleep in it, shower in it, swim in it? When it's bonded on, your longevity, of course, comes down just a little bit. So when they say 3 to 4 per year, realistically, that's somebody that has their hair bonded on.
Okay.
Now, if it's taped or clipped, we're going to get a better longevity out of it.
Very nice.
So what I'm doing here is I am just kind of marking her, putting it in place, making sure it's where I want it to go. We want to take a look. We want to see, how does this look on her forehead? Now, I measured her prior to the Facebook Live, and normally what we do when we're measuring how far back this system is going to sit in the front, we look at this part of the face, the space underneath the nose to the bottom of the chin, and that measurement is approximately the same measurement as you want here. So I've already measured that for her before we started. So right about here is the same space as what she would have right about here.
Okay.
Now, normally when I do men, you'll see me take the comb and use the comb to go around and mark. But with her, I'm actually using the marker today. And the reason why is because we're going to go through and we're going to shave all of this down around the edge. We'll take away the marks before we actually put the adhesive on.
Okay, so I have some questions coming through. Somebody is asking, or Bridget is asking, what did you use to prep her scalp?
So her scalp was, I actually use Dawn, and that's what it's a degreaser. So
Okay.
it takes all the oils off of the skin before we start. You don't want to use a lot of alcohol. You don't want to, a lot of times alcohol is going to cause the skin to over dry and then produce more oils. So we are marking her all the way around here. And we want to make sure we know exactly where we want to shave her down to.
Okay. And I think I was coming in and out, but another question is it safe for people going through chemo?
When you have somebody going through chemo, you do not want to use adhesives on their head. You can use tape. You could use just little pieces of tape all the way around so that they can take that on and off. The problem when people are going through chemo, radiation, those types of treatments, their scalp becomes very sensitive. So any sort of constant tugging, pulling can get very uncomfortable on their skin.
Okay, well, thank you so much. And then somebody's asking, do you need a cosmetology license to apply a system? I would say yes. You definitely not only want to have a cosmetology license, like, I'll put myself as an example. I'm a licensed cosmetologist. And other than just, watching Brandy work and, being in some of our classes, I would still want more hands-on training and education to feel completely comfortable, doing a start to finish application. So not only a cosmetology license, but also, extended education in the subject. And then Donald is saying that the color is so much softer and more believable with the customization you did. And I agree with that. I love the little pieces in the front.
I find that anything that gives the hair more movement, whether you do that with your color, your cut, all of those things, the more movement you put into the system, the better your outcome is going to be. It also differentiates you from the guy down the street who's going to pull it out of a box and plop it on somebody's head and not give it any uniqueness.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So I'm going to go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say it does come in a lot of different colors, and some of them even, I think there's one that has a root 12/22 SS and the 1488 SS, actually 3 have a root, and then an 829 SS. So it's like a brown, a light brown, and a blonde. But again, I think Brandy taking something that is their best color base to start with, and then you adding the depth to the root or adding that little, highlight in the front is such a great touch. So we have a question. Annie is asking, once it's on, does it itch?
So most people don't have a lot of issues with itching. You will get some, nothing absolutely, intolerable, no different than if my own head were to itch. How is it for you normally, Marie? Even though you're taped on now, does it tend to itch a little bit once in a while?
Yeah, occasionally, but not anything more than just what would be considered normal.
And Brandy, I know when in the past I wanted to do an application, a men's application, and I think somebody asked that same question about the itching. And I know you said to just be gentle, maybe use your comb and just kind of tap where it itches. But any pointers on somebody that has a system, that they've spent so much time and money on getting it applied, and just to be gentle if they do have itching?
Right, so you don't want to do anything that causes a friction. So we don't want to do anything that's a back and forth movement. If you have itching, my suggestion is just to tap it, not so much this motion. I tell people that when they dry their hair, we don't want to have a lot of this motion. When the hair is wet and you dry it, we pat it down. When you're combing, you always want to kind of come in at that angle so that you're not scratching the base of that system. That causes excess hair loss.
Okay, that's a great tip. So we're getting some more questions. Thank you guys for asking questions. It'll keep us going. We can stay on all night probably with all these questions. But okay, so Mitzi is asking for hair thinned by a disorder which may or may not grow back, what is the best way to apply the piece that may let the hair grow back, but not enough hair now for clips? I think I understand that.
So I think if I'm understanding correctly, you can do something that's called an over the hair bond, to where you can actually bond the hair over the top, or the system over the top of existing hair. That's a method that we teach in our women's class.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically taking their own hair, we seal it down really well. We show you how to tape up the system and bond it down over that existing hair. When they come back in, you soak it off so that each time you have it done, you get to see that hair growth kind of coming out underneath.
Okay, and then so we have a question. I know you're shaving down Marie now, but prior to you shaving, we had the question, does the model have alopecia, or was that shaved down when you took the system off?
So she does not, well, in an essence, yes, she does have alopecia, alopecia being basically the name of hair loss, but she has what's called androgenetic alopecia, which is an all over thinning. So she's got that diffusion all over. It's not just in one spot. So areata alopecia is basically spots of hair loss. And then you have alopecia totalis, where someone loses the hair all over their head. And then we have alopecia universalis, which is where they lose all of their hair. So androgenetic alopecia is basically a name for genetic alopecia, which is the diffused thinning.
And I obviously we're seeing that you're salvaging all of the hair along the bottom hairline, and you're going to incorporate that into the system, which I love because Marie will be able to style her hair behind her ears or up or off of the face. So I love that you're incorporating that.
So any of this stuff that we can keep around here and even in through this area, as she styles her hair, she will be able to, you know, kind of pull that off and away from her face a little bit.
Awesome. Okay, so somebody is asking, how long does it stay on the head? So I'm assuming that this question is going to be for the application we're watching, because every application obviously is going to have a different longevity, but the application that we're going to watch you do today, Brandy, how long will she have this on?
So I will probably have her come back, since this is the first time she's done this type of an application. I'll have her come back in about 3 weeks. And we will see how she's doing with it. Now, everybody's body chemistry is different. So there's not one adhesive, let's say, that's better than another adhesive. It's finding that right combination of adhesive for each client. Most of the time, women are not as oily as men are, so they tend to have a better longevity with the bonding than men do.
Okay, and then somebody is asking, what product do you use to clean the unit? And I don't know if they mean like to clean the base or just to wash it. I'm assuming washing.
So when I wash the system itself, I just use a very gentle shampoo and conditioner. I like Enjoy products. Those are my favorite. Everybody kind of has their own. Now, when we're cleaning the adhesive off the bottom, I just use a plain solvent, not citrus based or anything. I spray that on there. We let it sit. And then normally it'll break it down enough to where you can just wipe the adhesive off, and I'll use a little bit of Dawn on the base of the unit to make sure we've gotten all the oil off of it.
Okay, awesome. And then we're getting the question, would you need to continue to shave it down?
Yes, so when we take this back off of her, we'll actually reshave her head back underneath, and that'll take a lot of that adhesive off of her scalp. And then we clean everything up and we reapply it again.
And then Kimberly is asking, how often should you replace the system? And she may have joined a little bit later. I know Brandy, you talked a little bit about this system being, perhaps 3 to 4 annually, and that's all, based on the client and how they take care of it.
Yes, so it can be 3 systems. I mean, if you were taping this on and taking it off at night, you could probably do 2 systems within a 12-month period.
Perfect. And we're getting a nice compliment from Marie. Donald is saying, I applaud your model for being here today and helping us advance the art and science of hair replacement. We appreciate it. We're going to learn so much, and I can already tell this is going to be amazing. And I know Brandy, once you get into cutting it and styling it, I can't wait. It's going to be so cute.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start applying our adhesive here. And I always put it on the sponge first, and then I put it on the scalp, and I work it down to where my marks are here in the front. I don't like to put big globs of it on the head. So this allows me just a little bit more control. And we want to do very, very thin coats. We don't want to start it too thick.
And I know you use like a traditional kind of makeup sponge, right?
I do. If you use the makeup sponges, you want to make sure that you get the makeup sponges that don't have vitamin E oil in them, because that can actually cause your adhesive to break down. So you just want plain makeup sponges. You can use the sponge paint brushes. You can buy them at Lowe's. Those work really well as too.
Okay.
So really, we this is all we do at our salon is hair replacement. So we go through a lot of these.
Okay, Jackie is asking if there's a chance, I guess if they were to do non-surgical hair replacement, could they get an infection?
So if you have a client that is allergic to the adhesive and it causes their skin to break out and they get a lot of scratching underneath, you could possibly have an issue. However, we did a patch test on Marie when she came in to try on the unit and make sure everything was going to work for this today.
Okay.
And we didn't have any reaction to the adhesive. That's why I picked using Ghost Bond on her. We've already done a patch test with this.
Perfect. So always do a patch test. That's very, very important. Chrissy is asking about pricing, and I know, of course, that varies depending on what state you're in, all of that. But maybe you can just give us a general answer. She's asking, what do you charge for this bonding? Do you charge hourly?
So we have a set price when we do, we call it a service. So taking a system off that they've already purchased and cleaning it up and putting it back on is a $75 charge. If we do any color or anything, there's an extra charge for that. Every market is a little bit different. If you go to New York and have this done, you're probably going to pay $200. So it really just depends on your market and where you're at.
That makes sense. Let me make sure I didn't miss any other questions. Okay, so we have a question about the adhesive that you're using. So it's where the question is, what adhesive are you using and what is the appropriate longevity of the adhesive?
So the adhesive I'm currently using on her is Ghost Bond Platinum. And as I said earlier, it depends on the body chemistry. Some people are oilier than other people. So for someone that's really oily, probably 2 weeks. For someone, I have a lady who has very, very dry skin, and she can stay on 6 weeks and has absolutely no issues with it whatsoever. It's still difficult to get off after 6 weeks. So it really depends on how oily they are.
Okay, and that kind of answers the next question a little bit. How long does the bonding last?
Yeah, so that is just kind of an individual thing. So looking at Marie and seeing she's not extremely oily, but she doesn't have really dry skin either. I would venture to say probably 4 weeks would be about her max with the bonding. However, because this is the first time we're bonding her, I'm going to want to see her back in about 3 weeks sooner if she has any issues whatsoever. But we'll do our first service in 3 weeks so that I can see how she did with it, how it held up, and then we'll have a really good idea to know how long we'll need to have her go in between services after that.
Okay, and then I'm guessing is this your second coat of adhesive?
Yes, so right now I'm starting on the second coat. I put them on very, very thin so that they'll dry really well in between. The trick to longevity with your bonding as well is to make sure that you get those coats on thin and we really give it that dry time that's needed. If it doesn't dry properly, it'll actually start to break itself down. So if you put coats on here that are really thick, it's kind of like putting on fingernail polish really thick. You know how it never gets really dry and just the top part will get dry, but underneath it's still wet. The same thing will happen with adhesive.
Any tips on knowing when it's dry?
You'll know, like it'll be clear whenever it's dry. But when I get from the front to the back, I want this part to be clear up here. If I get all the way back here and I come back up here and this is still too wet, I've put too many coats on. I put it on too thick in the front. So I just kind of keep spreading it until it gets clear.
I know you talked a little bit about the cleanup process. Like, let's say when you take the system off, Stephen is asking, is this a gummy mess to clean off after?
So every client is, again, a tiny bit different. Some people, it's super dry when you take it off. So, and some people, what happens when they're really oily, the copolymer bonds are meant to absorb that oil. So for some people, when you take it off, it almost looks a little bit spongy underneath. And what that is it's because it's done its job and it's absorbed the oil, which is actually for me a little bit easier to clean up when it's a little spongy like that, not so much gummy, because you can just spray it and wipe it off and clean it. There are a couple, if you resort to using Ultra Hold, which is an acrylic based bond, that holds extremely well. But the problem with Ultra Hold is that's kind of one of those adhesives that is a gummy mess when you take it off. And it tends to want to like leak out the sides just a little bit.
So we don't have a question at this exact moment. So I was gonna ask you, Brandy. So this is a new system, Reese, that we're gonna apply on Marie today. What do you like the most about it, and why do you think it's good that they've added this to the collection?
So what we've had previously for women in a 3/4 cap, we've had in a pre-custom stock is Maryland Plus. Now Maryland Plus is great, but it comes a little bit thicker, a little bit heavier, and it comes in a longer length. So for someone like Marie who wears her hair a little bit shorter, that doesn't work quite as well. And she's got pretty fine hair, and I'd like to see her in something that has just a little bit less of a density to it. The base is just a little bit thinner, so it's going to be a little more comfortable to wear. And what I love the most about this particular system is these little mesh inserts in the top up here. I don't know if you can see that. But what that does is it gives it just a little bit more breathability to it. So it's not a 100% polyurethane. You do have this little bit of mesh in there that's going to give it a little bit more breathability. It also has a lace front on it. So you get that really nice front hairline and the look of having lace without having to have a full lace.
That's great. After Hair Style Quarters is asking how many coats of the adhesive, and then do you put a coat on the unit also?
So I'm not going to put a coat on the unit. Normally, if I'm doing a full polyurethane system, I'm going to put a little bit on the very front edge. But because this is lace, we don't ever add a copolymer to lace. So we're only going to put it on her head. The reason I don't put adhesive all over the rest of the unit is when we lay that down, we don't want to trap air bubbles underneath there. And this system is breathable, which means the air will kind of come up. It's permeable through the top of it. And if we put adhesive all over the unit, we take that away and we'll wind up with possibly little air pockets underneath where sweat can kind of build up and get trapped and cause irritation. We want a nice flush fit when we lay this down.
It's amazing. Okay, so we have some more questions. Can you see the scalp through the system?
Yes, you can. And that's kind of the purpose of it. So years ago, when I started doing this, they were very, very thick bases on the underneath. And we had to put a lot of hair in there because we had to hide the base of that system somehow. Well, now because the bases are so much thinner and so much more natural than they used to be, we don't have to have a ton of hair in there to hide the base. We can see through it. We can see her scalp, and it just looks like it's growing right out of her head.
We have a question from Marie. How long have you been wearing pieces, and what is your routine? Or Brandy, if you want to answer that for her.
Go ahead, Marie. I got my first piece in 2014, and I would never not have a piece now. And I waited way too long before I got my piece. I mean, it's just amazing, the amount of self-confidence that it gave me back. And I mean, I just can't explain what that did for me in changing my life.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
Okay, so I just put a little bit of no tape, which is a silicone adhesive, just right around her edges here, about 1 inch up. Kind of hard to see with my lighting there. And we just did it from temple to temple, where she's got a little bit of existing hair. The nice thing about the silicone adhesive is it doesn't actually stick to her skin. It's going to hang on to that little bit of tiny bit of hair that she's got around here, which just adds a little bit of an anchor for the system to grab onto, so she doesn't start to get movement as the ghost bond starts to break down.
We have Angela asking, does the adhesive go through the mesh or lace and get into the hair?
No, I don't usually have an issue with that, especially with women clientele. Again, they're not as oily. And normally we've got these little bit of mesh inserts up through here, and the way it's designed and the netting in it doesn't really allow for the adhesive to get up through the top of it.
Good to know.
So I think we are about ready to attach Miss Marie here. Let me see if I turn her around this way. It's a little easier to kind of see what I'm doing. Let me know if I get in the way.
No, I think we have a good angle here.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe turn her a little to the side a little bit more, because I think you are going to the other way, the other way.
The other way. Okay.
Kind of 3/4. There you go, right there. I think that should be good.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to find my spot in the front here. I'm just kind of running my finger up till I get to that little sticky, and I'm just putting a tiny little mark. I'm going to center it between my 2 thumbs right here. I'm going to have you look up for me just a little bit. Huh? There we go. And look back down. So when we lay this down, we kind of want to go one side at a time. We don't want to lay both sides down, because you can't really watch both sides go down at the same time. So I kind of got that front over there. And I'm going to come around here. Go back to this side. Now I'm pushing that front down right now so that it doesn't slip on me as I pull it back. And we're keeping that top part right here. We don't want to see a whole lot of this. We want to keep that nice and stretched out there. We don't want to lay those sides down right here just yet. We want to kind of come all the way back with it. When you lay these sides down in through here on a 3/4 cap, before you get it around the curve of the head, you don't have anywhere for this excess to go in through here. So we're going to kind of get that over the curve of her head, keeping it nice and tight, right about to there. And then I'm going to come back to my side here, and I'm going to pull this down into place. And I'm going to do the same thing over here.
We had a question. Can you wear this in a ponytail?
Yes, she can.
And then what kind of silicone adhesive do you use?
So I use no tape. You can get that through, I believe, HairUWear carries that now. So
And now you're just getting air pockets out.
I'm just going through and double checking, making sure that everything is pushed down into the adhesive, making sure that I don't have those air pockets, which it's much easier to get them out if you don't have adhesive all over the space of the system.
That makes sense. Becky is asking, how long does the adhesive stay moist before you have to get the cap on?
You can let it dry for quite a long time. Theoretically, if you're just doing the 2 coats like I did, probably about 5 minutes after. If you're doing 3 or 4 coats of it, you want to give it a good 10-15 minutes dry time.
Okay.
How's that feel, Marie?
It feels awesome.
Does it feel a little lighter on your head than the other one?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not too tight? Feels good?
It feels great.
Okay.
We've gotten the question, do you use on tape on guys also?
No tape?
Yeah, no tape, I guess.
Yes. Yeah. So I use it around the perimeter, pretty much on everyone that has a little bit of existing hair. I'll use it around the perimeter, whether it be male or female.
And then I noticed too that another thing that you customized prior or from out of the box is you cut the lace back. Do you have any tips on when somebody's going to cut the lace back?
So normally when I cut the lace back on these, I will leave it on, it comes on a little plastic shell, and I will leave it on that plastic shell and have the hair wet, comb it back out of the way, and use an X-Acto knife just to cut that excess lace off the front from the top so that I can see what I'm doing and where I'm cutting.
Perfect. Anne is asking, when can she take a shower?
So I will tell her to wait at least 24 hours before she washes it, just to make sure that that adhesive completely cures underneath.
It already looks so good.
So I like to, obviously I washed this because I colored it. And then I kind of took the blow dryer to it and dried it in the general direction of how we were going to style her. Just so it's not quite so scary when I put it on their scalp, you know? So I give it a little bit of style before we start.
Would you say that most units or systems would need to be cut and thinned out for each person?
So every one of, this is not like a wig. So a wig, you take it out of the box, you can kind of shake it out and put it on. All of these would need to be at least washed and at least gone through, trimmed down a little bit in order to get a good look to it.
That's good to know. And also, what color was this when you first started? I don't think
so. This was in R6.
Okay.
And what I rooted it with was a little bit of 5 with some 6 mixed into it, just to kind of give this that deeper tone in the top right there.
Annie is asking, will she wash her hair normally after those 24 hours?
So after 24 hours, the only real direction that I give them is kind of like we talked about earlier, not a lot of back and forth motion. So not a lot of this. When the water hits it, we want to keep that hair kind of going in the same direction. We don't want to let the water hit it and go side to side and forward. So just kind of keep the hair going in the same direction with the water. Shampoo in our hands, and we just kind of take it and we pat it in, pull it through with our fingers, and then rinse, and same thing with the conditioner. Just keeping that hair while it's wet and that cuticle's popped open, because that's what happens when your hair is wet. We want to keep it all going in the same direction.
Somebody's asking about, sweating at the gym. Should you wait as well 24 hours or 48 hours?
Yeah, so any sort of physical activity, I normally will tell clients to work out before they come in to get their hair done, so that they're not going to the gym right afterwards. If you start working out and sweating too much before the adhesive is cured, it's going to cause it to turn white again.
And that means it's not dry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Stephen is asking, was it a virgin color to begin?
Virgin color. So it was dyed at the factory before I got it.
Yeah, I mean, my personal, definition of virgin would be unprocessed, like no chemicals, like, somebody maybe donated and nothing was done to it. So in this case, of course, it was processed chemically and colored,
Yes.
and then you also processed it chemically.
Yes, which is why we only use 10 or 20 volume because we don't want to cause too much damage to it.
Okay, so Stephen is asking when you first apply the unit, can you lift it up if needed to adjust it, or is it done once it's placed?
So with the front of hers, because it is a little bit of lace in the front, I was able to kind of adjust a little just on that edge. But normally once it's down, it's going to be down. If you lift it up, you're going to have to put a little bit more adhesive on it to lay it back down again.
Bridget is asking after she takes it off, what does she clean the unit with? But that's actually part of your service, right? So you would clean the unit for her.
Right, so she won't be doing any sort of cleaning of the unit. It'll stay on her until she comes back in to see me. And then we will take it off and I do all of that for her.
I love this little fringe that you're doing in the front. So pretty. How much length are you going to take off overall? Because I know her other style that she had on at the beginning was much shorter.
So we're thinking we're going to do just a little bit of a bob for her. We're probably going to take her right about here.
Okay. And then I noticed too, you're not using regular shears, you're using thinning shears.
So I used my regular shear kind of around the bang there just to play with it. Right now, what I'm doing is adding some baby hairs to the front just to give her a little bit of that nice soft look right around the front hairline if the wind blows. And I just do that by taking that hair and get a small section and we twist it and go in with your texturizers and go all the way down. And that just adds a nice little light baby hair around her face in case the wind blows, you don't see a hard line right around the face there.
I love that.
And we're going to do
so Bridget is adding to her question from earlier. So she's saying, what would you clean it with? What would you clean the system with?
So I would use a regular solvent, just an oil-based. Walker has a regular solvent. I'm not a big fan of the citrus solvents. They tend to be a little more irritating. And then you spray it with that, let it sit. So normally my routine is I will take the unit off. I'll spray the system with a little bit of that solvent and let it sit while I clean up their head. And then I take that system in the back. If I can wipe the adhesive off after that, after it's sat, I will. If it's still kind of on there, I will take the system and put it in a bowl of hot water. And what that's going to do is the oil, the solvent, which is oil, and water don't mix. So it starts to lift that adhesive up off the base, and then I can just use my Dawn and wipe it off.
Very good. Jackie is asking, can you order colors or do you have to color all of them? And I talked a little bit about that. So there's quite a few colors to choose from, and there are 3 that have the roots already done with some highlights and some variation. So not necessarily, but Brandy, what would you say to that as far as like always adding some customization or maybe just sometimes?
You can order the shadow shaded colors. They come out beautiful to where you already have this in there. So if you look down through, you really get to see her scalp in through there compared to the shadow shade. Or you can add it in yourself. It's really just going to be preference. If the shadowing's not quite dark enough or it's a little too dark for your preference, then just order the solid color. But if you really like the way it comes in the shadow shade, then you can do that.
And I know this hairstyle is 10 inches long. So could it work for somebody who has, their perimeter length is much longer, or like what length would you cap it off with using this system?
So if they had a longer perimeter length, you could theoretically still use this. If they were longer than probably 14 inches around the perimeter, I would say no. But at 14 inches around the perimeter, you can still do a nice layer cut with this because you want to have that movement in it. And as long as they've got thick enough hair. Now, with her hair being as thin as it is, and if it's somebody that has as fine of hair as she does, really, we want to kind of cover her hair and make it look a little thicker with this.
Annie is asking what the cost of this, just the unit is. And I don't think we have exact cost or price because that's based on your account and how much you order, things like that. But Annie, you can definitely reach out to us and we can answer like exact pricing questions for you. I also noticed, so you're going to have the length of the unit longer than her actual hair, but it'll still blend with the weight and the thickness of it.
Yeah, so we're actually going to grow her hair out around the edges to come into this. But because we have enough weight on here, we can get away with just waiting for this to grow out underneath here. But she's still going to have, as you can see, if I pull that back, having her little bit of hair there still makes a huge difference around her hairline.
Would you recommend this unit for somebody that does not have any hair along the perimeter?
If someone doesn't have any hair along the perimeter, they're probably going to need something more like a full cap, like the Sensation.
Okay.
But for someone that has just this little bit, this is actually a perfect system, which most women have just that little bit of hair. Now, someone that doesn't have any of this hair around in through here is probably going to be somebody that has full-blown alopecia.
Mm-hmm. And they could either get a full unit bonded or even maybe just a full wig.
Yes.
Okay, so we have a question about toning highlights. So the question is, did you have to tone your highlights after they process so they aren't too grassy?
The only thing that I used on this afterwards was I used a little bit of the Olego Blue Blacklight shampoo, which is just a real deep blue shampoo. Just to kind of,
mainly you didn't lift too much, right? So there wasn't too much of the grass.
right. So I only lifted it 2 levels. I used a 20 volume on it when I did it.
Okay, so another question Jackie's asking, are there specific hair color brands that work best, or can you use brands like Redken, etc.?
I've used Matrix, Redken, anything that is that thicker cream color that you prefer works perfectly fine. Using the Shades EQ, the thinner colors, they tend to run on the base and they tend to cause staining on the base when they get the base of the system. So we don't want to do that. So just stick with more of your thicker cream colors.
And I know you talked about at the beginning, so in case some people are just joining us or joined after, you talked about our virtual education classes where you obviously go more in depth on everything that we're seeing today. You said that you even cover techniques on how to color without staining the base. And at the very end, I'll talk a little bit more about how you guys can get in touch with us to sign up for more virtual education. Keep sending in your question, guys. We are going to do a really special giveaway. So to enter the giveaway, you want to ask Brandy one of your amazing questions. You guys have been so great and we've gotten so many good questions, but keep sending them in and that will enter you into our amazing giveaway, which is going to be a personalized experience consultation with a pro, with our director of sales, and then also a discount on an order. So keep sending in your questions. And Brandy, are you still cutting with your thinning shears or now you're using your regular shears?
So when I do men's hair, you'll see me mostly use my texturizers. When I do women's, I go through and we're just doing a base cut right now. And I'll use my regular scissors is what I'm using right now. And then I'm going to dry her into place where I want the hair to be. And then we're going to go back through and we're going to take that heaviness out of the ends so that we don't have all of that weight in the ends of it. So right now we're just giving her a nice base cut.
And we didn't talk about it. I'm sure a lot of you are assuming because it was colored and processed, but this system is 100% human hair. And let me see. I was trying to see if it came in gray tones. I don't think it does. Yeah, I love that you can, sorry to interrupt. I love that you can either bond or you can use tape. And when somebody is using tape, can they remove that daily?
Yes. So with the system we took off of Marie, she was actually just taping that on, and she pretty much removed it daily.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so for everybody that's watching while Brandy is working, so we can let her kind of get a little bit further along in her haircut, Chris, which is helping with comments and behind the scenes, is going to pull up an image of the diagram so you guys can all see what that looks like. So when you're looking at your screen, this is Reese, and you'll see our models before and after. It's a great length. It's kind of below the collarbone. It's a completely customizable cap system for coverage needs that fall between a top of head and full wig. That's what I love about the 3/4 caps, because you get a little bit more coverage than just a top of head. It says the soft, pliable design accommodates multiple attachment methods and can be easily modified to create a smaller size. So maybe we'll talk a little bit about that in just a bit. It's a lightweight construction that includes moldable polyurethane perimeter and breathable Swiss lace. It says position the lace front to create a hairline or behind an existing hairline. And when you look at the diagram, you can see all of the amazing features that it has. The ear-to-ear polyurethane front rim, the thin polyurethane gauze, a Swiss lace front, and then it has those Swiss lace pockets that Brandy talked about. So that's going to let that air come through, which is really nice. And then it has a soft scallop transition from the lace to the polyurethane. So that's really nice. We talked about how, Brandy, you cut the lace back before you applied it. And I know that the lace that it has is like a working lace. So do you have any tips when somebody takes the system out of the box and they're going to color it, or maybe just trim it up if they know they're going to have to cut it, maybe they want to prep it? How would you work with that delicate material on like a head block, or, you know, any tips you have for that?
So when you put it on your canvas head, the reason we have that working edge is so that we can pin through it. So when I'm doing my coloring or I'm doing any sort of customization on the unit itself, I will pin it through that working edge. I don't want to put my pins back here where the hair is, because as you're pulling on it, you're going to stretch and tear this lace back here. So I don't cut the working edge off of it until we're completely done doing all of our customization with it. And that's when we're going to want to cut that working edge off.
That's good to know. Nancy is asking, what are the sizes the system can be customized to? Because I know it can be cut back, but like, is there a limit that you would give yourself? Like, you wouldn't make it too small, or, you know, what would you have to say to that?
So I wouldn't cut it back any further than the Swiss lace inserts that are in the top, but as long as you leave this little bit right in through here, if you can see that, you want to leave about 1/4 of an inch right around that Swiss lace at the bottom there. So theoretically, you could cut off about 2.5 inches off of the back of it, and you would still be fine. Even around the edges, you could still take off about another 2.5 inches, which would make it roughly probably 7.5 to 8 inches front to back if you did that.
We have a good question. What type of human hair is this? And I know it's a proprietary blend, so we can't really say exactly the exact blend, but the good question, or part of the question that I really love is, do you need to be careful when using a razor or slide cutting to keep from creating split ends or too many return hairs?
Yes, that's a great question. I see a lot of people use a razor when doing this, and you create a lot of frizz when you do that if you don't know what you're doing. If you're very comfortable with the razor, if you've been using it a long time, that's great. But if you haven't, what'll happen and you slide through this is you're basically going to cut hair shafts in half, and you're going to cause a lot of frizz all the way up the hair. So I prefer to use the scissors, and then I'll go back through with my texturizers and we'll cut a little bit more out of it. So I'm dampening her just a little so I can take the blow dryer to it and kind of get the right shape going.
Mhm.
We can really see where she's too heavy, and then we'll start going back through. The point of the razor is to take out weight, but you risk creating a lot of frizz by using it.
That makes sense. I see that Jenna is in our comments answering some of the questions, and Jenna is our account executive. She's saying that Reese is available in all salon-inspired American Hairlines ladies colors. So 3 shadow shades and no grays for this one in particular. Carmen is asking, where can I buy this system? So Carmen, we will, of course, add some contact information at the end. But reach out to American Hairlines and we can get you all set up and ready to buy your first system. Maybe you'll win our giveaway and get the full package of VIP consultation amazingness. So send us some more questions so you can be entered. And are you done with the base cut, Brandy?
Yeah, so I finished the base cut on it, and I'm just gonna go through, and I really want to get that hair dried out a little on the ends and smoothed out so we can get it going in the right direction.
Okay.
And I can start to see as I dry it where it's too heavy, and then we're gonna take a little bit more weight out of it.
It looks amazing already. And so this color is a little bit lighter than what Gina or Maria's used to using.
The color itself is a little bit lighter than what she had. The hair density, the hair texture itself is a little bit of a finer hair texture than the one she had. So what she had was a little bit of a coarser hair. So this is a little bit finer as well.
It's very nice.
So as far as the type of hair that they put in here, it is kind of a blend, if you will, of they put a little bit of a heavier hair mixed with a finer hair, which gives you a really nice texture to the hair.
Mm-hmm.
If we go with too much of the coarse hair, if you go with too much of the fine hair, it's really hard to work with the hair. So by doing that perfect mixture of the two, it makes it really nice to work with.
That makes sense. And same applies for a lot of the HairUWear human hair wigs. It's like the perfect blend of, different hair, like Brandy said, some with, thicker denier, but maybe it's straighter, and then the finer denier that maybe has a little bit of that wave to it naturally. So it's like the best of both worlds. Okay, so I see that we have a winner was already selected. So thank you everybody that entered, asked questions. Keep asking questions. We're here. Obviously, Brandy is so amazing and incredible, the best I have seen personally. So keep asking her your questions and she'll be, answering until we finish the live. But our winner is Bridget Winton. So get excited. Woo!
Congratulations, Bridget.
Congratulations, Bridget. So we will be reaching out to you and following up with how to claim your prize. So congrats. But again, keep sending in those questions, any follow-up questions you have, anything about the application. And also if you joined a little bit later, be sure to go back and watch the live from the very beginning because Brandy did a complete application, start to finish. And you're going to learn so much. Plus, we have so many other online virtual education classes that you can sign up for. So it's so exciting. And I know, with COVID, one of the, silver linings, if you may call it that, is that we can be watching Brandy in Arizona. I am in Dallas. We're all in other places and we can learn so much and still be together. It's like we're all in the same room. I love it. Yay. So Gina is super excited for the winner and she will be reaching out to you for your personal unplugged American Hairlines experience. That's so exciting.
Okay, we're going to take some weight out of here.
Any tips when you're doing that? Do you kind of just kind of go through a couple of sections and then kind of stand back and see if you need to do more?
Yeah, so I'm starting about 1 to 2 inches from the ends, just kind of taking that weight out of the ends. You don't ever want to thin necessarily at the top up here. So I've seen people kind of come in and think they're going to take these and thin in the top and take weight out. What happens is we create little tiny hairs that want to stand up here, and it's going to give you the opposite effect. It's actually going to make the hair feel thicker because those little tiny hairs at the base are going to make the hair stand up more. So when we're doing texture and thinning, we always want to kind of just do it from the bottom to give it a really nice movable effect. And then we want to just kind of take that hair, we want to move it, we want to see if we're getting that nice movement out of it. Right here seems a little bit heavy to me still, so we're just going to come in here and I'm going to take a little more out of the ends right there, and then I just kind of stand back and play with it and see how it moves. Now, if you're putting hair on somebody that feels like it's way too much hair up here, you might think about ordering something a little bit thinner next time if you feel like you're needing to thin from the base.
So you would just select a different unit.
Yeah, something with a little bit less hair in it.
It looks so good. I'm loving the new look. I love those little baby lights you put in there too. It's like, it's just that subtle touch that kind of like when the light hits it, it just looks so much more natural. And then also the ends being a little bit lighter in density when you're moving that just looks so much more natural.
Gives her such a nice light look.
Stephen is asking, how would you thin towards the base if it's too dense? And you kind of answered that a little bit, but is there any way, like, let's say you maybe should have gone with a different unit, but you're kind of already in this stage of it. Like, is there anything you can do?
So the one thing that I would do if I feel like it was just way too much hair up here, there's a solution that I use, which is about a half a bottle of perm solution mixed with about a half a gallon of hot water. And I'm actually just going to kind of dip it in that a few times. I'm going to wash it, condition it, and I'm going to dry the hair a little flatter going in the direction I want it to go on top. What that's going to do is take out a lot of that volume in through the top without taking out all of the wave. And I wouldn't have to go in and start thinning and pulling hair out from the base of the system. That's my least favorite thing to do.
But it's possible.
Well,
yeah, like you said,
yeah.
so then the next time you would maybe select a different unit, or you can contact your sales associate and we can help you find a better unit for your client.
Yes. And a lot of times they'll feel like when it's a brand new client, they've never had hair before, they're always going to feel like it's way too thick, no matter what you do. That's true. One of the things that I tell people is when you have a brand new client that you're doing hair for, one little trick is you can move it a little further back on their forehead. It makes it look like a little less hair. You can go with something quite a bit thinner. You can do that perm solution trick that we talked about. Things like that that kind of make the hair look like less the first time and gradually move them into a little bit more hair.
So we're a little bit beyond the hour. So thank you everybody who has stayed this long. If you stayed from the beginning or you're joining us a little bit later, be sure to go back and watch it. While Brandy wraps up, I'm going to talk a little bit more about, American Hairlines. The systems are for men and women. They also offer custom systems that you can have made exactly like what your client needs. The systems are customizable. Like you see, Brandy took this system out of the box, added highlights. She darkened a little bit of the base color, cut the lace back. She's cutting the hair. So you can really create any look with American Hairlines. So it's so exciting that it's an option. It's amazing for men. I've seen so many like before and afters for the men and in person that I'm like unbelievably shocked when I see like the after. It's incredible. So don't forget that learning this part of the industry is so amazing and incredible. If you're a hairstylist, a hair replacement studio, this is something that you can definitely dive into, and we are here to help you at HairUWear. So any last questions, go ahead and enter them in while we wrap it up. And thank you again for joining us, and Marie and Brandy. And I know Gabby was helping behind the scenes over there. So we're so thankful for everybody that is a part of today's live, because we learned so much. I think we're all so inspired, and we can see the magic of, you know, alternative hair and what it can do in someone's life. So again, any
Thank you.
questions?
Thanks for having
Throw them in. Oh no, yeah. Thank you, Brandy, for joining us. It's so good to see you. Hopefully we'll see each other in person soon at some point. We'll see.
the normal world.
I know. Everybody stay safe. Again, any last minute questions, pop them in there. Thank you again for joining us. I do send Frank's love to everyone who joined in a little bit late. He is on a virtual hair shoot. He's on set styling hair virtually, which I've done before, and it's very interesting and fun. So hope he had a great day, and you'll probably see him next time, or maybe me. But leave some more questions and comments. Let us know any questions you have. And again, we have more virtual education classes and programs. So reach out to us. Chris, if you can put any way of contacting American Hairlines for more information, she'll put that in the comments for everyone to see. Or you can just, you know, contact us, go to our website, give us a call, and we are here to answer any questions. So Brandy, we'll let you finish up. And Marie, thank you so much for being so gracious with your time and lending us your beauty to watch this transformation. I'm obsessed with it. I can't wait to see. Brandy, when you're done, take a picture, text it to me. I can't wait to see it. And hope everybody has an amazing rest of the day and rest of the week.
Thank you.
Thank
We're
you.
signing off. Bye, guys. Thank you for
Bye.
joining us.